Hello and welcome back to another Chris G review video. Today we'll be taking a look at the Pigma Micron by Sakura Koi. Not by Sakura Koi, by Sakura out of Japan. So before I get into the pen, I'm just going to give you a little background on the Pigma Micron brand of Sakura, or section of Sakura. So the Pigma Micron is a technical pen that was created by Sakura Koi about 25 years ago. So it's about 25 years old, with the idea that artists and designers needed some type of pen that could give them high quality performance, be cheap, and also have quality ink inside. So that's where the idea for the Micron came from. The word micron actually comes from the way that they make this pen. So what they did was the designers, and I'm reading this because I found it on their website. They said they discovered how to reduce pigment particles to sub-micron levels so it could easily flow through the narrowest of tips. So that's where micron comes from, the sub-micron size particles of pigments, Pigma, that you get, that they use to produce this pen. It goes on into some more details about the pen, but I'm not going to get into all of that. So the Sakura company makes a couple of different types of these pens. For instance, there's the Micron, which is the technical pen. Then there's the brush, which has a brush tip, the Pigma brush, and then they also have the Pigma technical tips, which is like a chisel tip pen. Then they have the PN, which is like just a regular everyday writing pen, and they also have other type of brush tips. There's about 8 different types of these Pigma Micron pens in total. So it's definitely something to look into because they make a lot of these pens. So we're going to try to keep it on the Pigma Micron and the Pigma brush today. So the Pigma Micron comes in about 7 different sizes, and it's in 15 colors. So you can get, like, this is the blue. You can get this Micron in 15 different colors and in every size and every color. So that's a good thing about these pens. These pens are disposable pens. They are disposable, so you cannot refill these pens. Once they are finished, they are done, and then you can just toss them out. They use archival ink, which is basically right here. It says it's waterproof and fade proof, and it also gives the size of the pen in millimeters with the number, because the number of the pen does not match the millimeter size of the pen, and the numbers go from 005 up to 8 is the largest size. So the pen is all plastic. The body of the pen is all plastic, and as you can see, I have a couple of colors here, and this is black, but the color of the pen is identifiable by the cap. As you can see, this is a brown number 1, this is a blue number 1, and this is a black number 1. And if you flip them over, on the bottom of the pens, it also identifies the color. So it does not say the color on the body of the pen. So if you pick up the body of the pen and you don't look at the cap or you don't look at the bottom, you won't know what color it is. So make sure that you're getting the correct color whenever you go out to try to buy one of these. So yeah, that's that. When you open up the pen, all of the pens have clips on them, by the way, which is a nice addition. They're very light in weight because the body's all plastic. There's not a lot of metal parts. As you can see right here, this is the tip of a Micron pen, and it needs to be pretty micro sized to get out of these tips, because this isn't the smallest, this is the size before the smallest. The number 1 pen actually is even smaller than this. So the tip on these the tip on the pins are like a felt tip pin or nib, and it actually flows really well. But the thing is that you have to use this on the correct paper. The thicker the tooth of the paper that you use this micron with, the harder it is for the ink to flow. This is the smallest size. This is the 005. But the more difficult it is for the ink to flow out of the tip of the nib. So if you use a very high grain tooth, and especially with a smaller nib like this 005, what will happen is that you'll kind of get a dry effect, or the pen will not be able to get into the valleys of the grain on the paper. So it's one thing they advertise is that this is a 9-skip pen. The Micron is a 9-skip pen, but it really is determined by the type of paper that you use it on. So be aware of that when you're picking the paper. Also, when you're using different types of paper with these pens, if you're using a high tooth paper, you can run through your nib faster. Your nib will diminish faster. Because of the tooth, it will wear down the nib quicker than if you use a smoother paper. So that's the pens. We're going to take a look at their sizes when you actually put them on paper, so you can get an idea of what they look like. And let's do it. Okay, now we're ready to take a look at how these pens look on paper. So as I'm doing this, I'm just going to tell you a little more about the pen. And all I'm going to do is just draw a line, and you can see the thickness. As you can see, I wrote all of these sizes with the marker that they're represented by. So this is 005. I wrote this with the 005. But the Micron has been something that's also, it's a technical pen, but it's been something that's been adopted by many artists. And the reason for that being is the consistency that you can get out of these pens. Another thing is that you can get different line weights. Actually, I made a video about creating different line weights with regular rollerball pens, in which you can basically, with the amount of pressure that you put on the pen, you can make a heavier or lighter line. That is something that you can do with these pens also. This is the 001. That's something that you can do with these pens as well. You can get a broken line or a not as heavy line, and then you can also get a thicker line. So as you can see right here, I'm very lightly running the marker across the paper, and you get a thin line, or not a thin line, but a light line. And then if you push down on the tip or the nib, you can get a heavier line. I think that's a little bit easier to see right between these two. So basically, as you use these pens, you can with the difference in line variations, you can kind of lay out your lines and then go over them darker once you find the line that you really enjoy, just like you would if you were using a pencil. This is the brown color, Micron number 1, and then this is the blue color. So I've seen a lot of artists like to use these, especially if they ink like comics or mangas. I've seen artists use this instead of your traditional dip pen, or like G-nibs or the Maru nib or anything like that. I'll link that as well. I did a review on those nibs if you're interested in it. But that's one thing, that because this pen gives a nice even line and and it flows evenly. You're not gonna get any heavy ink drops or any lighter ink drops unless unless the weight that you're putting down on the nib changes. It's gonna flow consistently, which is one thing I really enjoy. As you can see, I've got a nice group of these microns, and I use them a lot. So this is not the first batch of microns I've had. I use them, and then when they run out, you just toss them, and then you can get new ones. Another thing is that because the microns come in multiple sizes, when you're inking art, you can use the sizes to your advantage. So in places that you would like a thinner line, you use a thinner nib marker or a thinner micron pen, which would be like a 005. And then if you want a heavier line, you can use something like this, the 08. And the 08 gives a very thick line. That's a lot heavier than the smallest size. As you can see, I'll just put a couple of marks right here next to it. You can see the difference in size between the two. So that's another good thing, that when you're using all of these different sizes, they have a purpose. They can be used to your advantage. And last but not least, this is the brush. This is not a Micron, this is a Pigma brush, but I have it sitting around, so I decided I'd put it in this video. The brush pen, and I'll show you the nib, it has a felt nib. My only thing about this is that the nib on this pen is not very sharp, or sometimes it will not be sharp. And the reason for that being is that you can't see inside. You can kind of see it, but if you see, there's an inner cap that holds the nib of the pen together. The nib slides into this inner area right here. But what happens is sometimes when you put this into the cap, the nib area will go on the outside of that ring. And what that does is it damages the tip of the nib. So after a while, your nib will not give you any thin strokes. It'll be very difficult. And I don't know if you can see that. Well, I'll try to get closer. Okay, so as you can see right here, when you're using the nib, when you're using this pen, sometimes if you want to get a thin stroke, it just does not produce a very thin line. Not like the pocket brush pen or anything like that. All right, so this pen, it does give line variation. You can get variations in line, but it does not give a very, very thin line like some other brush pens. So keep that in mind. This is just a disposable pen. It's not going to be like the refillable brush pens that are out there with synthetic fiber nibs or anything like that. Okay, this is just a felt nib. It's not going to be like those other pens. So again, just kind of using these pens to
create a little drawing.
Okay, so this is just a small example of some of the things that you can do with these micron pens. So this is, I used the Micron 005 up to the 08. So you can see the difference in the lines from this house in the background to maybe the size of the lines on this bush. So you can, you can see that using different line variations can also help you with depth. Smaller, thinner lines in the background, thicker lines the more you come into the foreground. I definitely recommend the Pigma Micron. They're my personal favorite technical pen that I've been using for a long time now. They're usually between about $1 or $2 US, and they're pretty much available in most art stores. So check out the Pigma Micron pen. If you've never used one before, buy one, check it out, see if you like it. And with that, I'm gonna end this video. If you liked the video, if you learned something, if you enjoyed it, make sure you give it a like, and make sure you leave any comments down below that you might have, any questions about the Pigma Micron, or any other technical writing pen that you might like. Let me know what you like down in the comments below. Hit that subscribe button so you can stay tuned to all of the new videos that's going to be coming out on this channel. Thank you for watching. Peace.